The whole apartment goes black mid-dinner. Somebody gasps. A phone flashlight wobbles across the wall. And before anyone finds the candles, you're already in the hallway, lifting the lid on the fuse box, fingers moving over the switches in the dark like you've done it 100 times. A click. The lights snap back on. You walk back to the table like nothing happened. You didn't even mention it. If you're the one people call when everything's on fire, if your brain goes calm and clinical in the exact moment everyone else loses it, if you've quietly fixed problems your whole life and never really asked yourself why you can, then welcome. You're about to feel very seen. Because what looks like a personality trait from the outside is actually something you built, brick by brick, long before you noticed you were building it. Here's what people call you when they're being honest. Controlling. A know-it-all. The one who can't just let someone else handle it. They watch you take over the broken thing, and they decide you need to be in charge, that you can't relax, that you don't trust anyone else to do it right. Maybe they've even said it to your face. Maybe you've half believed them. But that's not what's happening inside you. What's happening is a belief, a very specific, very quiet belief that you are capable of handling whatever is in front of you. Psychologists have a name for this. Back in the late 70s, Albert Bandura called it self-efficacy. And it's not vague optimism. It's not everything will be fine. It's narrower and stronger than that. It's the feeling of, I've handled hard things before, and this thing right here is handleable too. Bandura found that this single belief changes everything about how a person meets a problem, how long they stick with it before quitting, how much effort they pour in when it gets ugly. Two people can have the exact same skills, the exact same problem in front of them, and the one who believes they can solve it will outlast the one who doesn't. Every single time, the belief comes first. The skill follows. Not the other way around, the way most of us assume. And there's one specific thing, one moment, usually buried in childhood, that builds this belief in the first place. We'll get to it. Because once you see it, you'll spot exactly where yours came from. But here's the part nobody talks about. This calm you have, it's not a feeling you were born with. It's a learned relationship with uncertainty. And the research on where it comes from is honestly kind of beautiful. There's a psychologist named Julian Rotter who spent years studying something he called locus of control. Basically, whether you believe your own actions shape what happens to you or whether life just happens at you. And people who sit firmly on the internal end, who believe their effort actually moves the needle, don't just fix more things. They're less likely to get depressed. They handle stress without dismantling their whole lives. They last longer in hard situations. Across cultures, across ages, the same pattern shows up again and again. Think about that for a second. The simple sense that what you do matters might be one of the most protective things a human mind can hold. Not talent, not luck. The quiet conviction that your hands on a problem actually change it. But here's where I have to push on something, even if it stings a little. You probably think your calm is confidence, that you walk into the broken situation already knowing it'll work out. You don't. You feel the same uncertainty everyone else feels. There's no magic guarantee in your chest. The difference isn't that you're certain, it's that uncertainty doesn't feel like a verdict to you. It feels like a starting line. And here's the kicker. Psychologists call that ability tolerance of ambiguity, the capacity to sit inside a situation where you genuinely don't know the answer yet, and not fall apart while you figure it out. And this is the real fault line between you and everyone else. Because people who struggle with ambiguity need resolution fast. They need to know right now that it's going to be okay. And when nobody can promise them that, the anxiety floods in. They freeze, and they quietly hand the problem to whoever looks calmest in the room. Which, let's be honest, is usually you. Somewhere along the way, you learned to be okay in that uncomfortable in-between space. The gap between the thing being broken and the thing being fixed. Most people experience that gap as unbearable. You learn to experience it as a workspace. That single difference is most of the magic. So, remember that moment I promised you? The one that builds all of this? Here it is. Picture a kid the first time they actually fix something. They wiggle a loose wire, and the lamp flickers on. They press on a cut, and the bleeding stops. And something rewires in them that has nothing to do with the lamp or the cut. The world stops being a thing that just happens to them. It becomes something they can reach into and change. Bandura called these mastery experiences, and the research ranks them as the single most powerful source of self-efficacy there is. Not being told you're capable, not watching someone else do it. Doing it yourself, that's the thing that sticks. And here's something that sounds contradictory. The kids who become fixers come from two completely opposite homes. Sometimes it was a parent who refused to hand over the answer and said instead, let's figure this out together. And sometimes it was a parent who simply wasn't there to help at all. So the kid had no choice but to become their own rescue. Guided agency or forced agency. Two roads, same destination. But there's a darker version of this. Because for some people, the fixing isn't coming from strength at all. And the way to tell the difference might change how you see yourself entirely. And the next part explains so much about why fixers and the people around them sometimes can't understand each other at all. Some people learned to fix everything because it was how they earned their place. The love showed up in the solution. Being helpless at some point was genuinely unsafe. So their nervous system made a quiet vow, never again. And that's not a superpower. That's a coping mechanism wearing a superpower's costume. You can spot it if you know what to look for. Ask them to let someone else handle something, and they physically can't settle. They hover. They offer suggestions nobody asked for. They reach for the problem before anyone hands it over. They need the thing fixed. Not really for you, but because an unfixed thing out there feels like an unfixed thing inside them. The broken pipe in your house becomes a low alarm in their own chest. So ask yourself gently, do you fix things because it fills you up, or because sitting with something broken feels too heavy to bear? Because one of those is mastery, the other one is hiding. And only you know which one is true at 3 a.m. But then there's the other kind of fixer, the one who does it out of pure curiosity, because broken things genuinely fascinate them. The gap between not working and working is the most interesting place in the world to them. They'll take apart something they already fixed just to understand it deeper. They fell in love with the process itself, not the applause at the end. And being around a person like that recalibrates you, whether they mean to or not. Because what they quietly teach is that not knowing how to do something is just a temporary state. Broken is not permanent. You don't fix things because you need control. You fix them because somewhere a younger version of you learned that broken is temporary. And never let go of that one beautiful idea. And if you're watching this realizing you're not this person, that handling everything yourself feels foreign, hear this clearly. That's not a flaw in your character, it's a history. Somewhere you learned that problems are things that happen to you. But self-efficacy isn't fixed. Bandura's whole argument is that it gets built through small wins. You tightened one screw, you made the call yourself. You didn't wait to be rescued, just this once. That's the whole architecture, and it starts smaller than you think.